Yeah, we are still in the ultimate Power BI course for the healthcare analytics, and we are in currently in module 1.2. And I will talk about what Power BI is and what Power BI is not. Some of you, this might be the first time you're getting to hear the word Power BI, which is fine. And some of you must have heard Power BI for like a good number of times, but you probably have some misconception about Power BI. But just best we clear the air. So one of the things you also need to know that Power BI is owned by Microsoft, and it's basically Microsoft Power BI. And the BI there means business intelligence. And that, I mean, other field might have different acronym for what BI means, but BI in data sector means business intelligence. And it's basically like a data visualization tool. And that's something you need to like know. So we use Power BI or any data visualization to be able to turn raw data into interactive reports and dashboard, such that as you keep updating or having more data, like the Power BI is keep updated, right? So maybe you had data from January up until June, and you now have data up until July to December. So you don't have to go to the report again to write the maybe your write your dashboard or whatever, or build your dashboard. All you just have to do is just to ensure that your Power BI is like refreshing like as much as possible, right? Is maybe getting daily refresh or so. It's also designed for business users and analysts. So instead of having to like go to Excel, whatever, CSV file to download the data or to do something manually. So it's very good. It also works with small file and also large data set. Like data set are also like in database or in the cloud. So majorly Power BI is used for exploration, analysis, and storytelling with data. And just so you know, like there are other like visualization tools that we have out there. One of which is Tableau, one of which is also Ultrix. There's a bunch of them, but Power BI is like one of the popular like visualization tool, and is also used like widely in the healthcare sector. Like we said, in this particular course, we are going to be going into details about how to use Power BI for data visualization in the healthcare sector. But just something that you need to know is what Power BI, I mean, what problem does Power BI solve? Well, first of all, like, so we kind of, it solves like raw data is hard, where the raw data is hard to interpret, right? We can't just look at a bunch of rows. So if you have information like, let's say 100 rows of information, you can always make an inference and say, oh, this is what it is. But when you have so many columns, you have so many rows, in case you're wondering what is row down column, there's a separate course that I have that basically explains like data analysis techniques. I'm going to advise you to check that out so that you'll be able to understand some of these terms like better. So in case you have a very large data set, it's long and it's wide, you can't start to make inference from that. So that's why you need to make some form of visualization. You need to aggregate the data. And one thing you also need to know is that Excel like becomes a limiting to scale. So that's why Power BI is something you could use. Power BI and Excel is also owned by the same company, and you could also even do visualization with Excel, but it's just easier to do visualization with Power BI. Static report doesn't answer follow-up questions. So imagine you did something like from January to June, but like you want the report to keep updating. What is the trend or what is the pattern? So that's where Power BI comes into play. Makers need real-time data or visual insights. So there are sometimes you just want to present a report, um, something quick and dirty. You don't need to go to build all like a dashboard just because it's not needed, right? But sometimes you need to also build a dashboard, especially in cases whereby the business users want something like a visual, and visuals are more appealing to people compared to just showing them tables. And where maybe also the reason why you may also need to use a Power BI is also when you have data from multiple sources, like you have your data in CSV, Excel, you have it from a database. You want to store them in a central location, then Power BI might also be like one of the solution for you. There's also like other platforms you could use that could process your data faster compared to Power BI, but like this course is basically for Power BI, so let's stick to that. So let's talk about what Power BI is not. Power BI is not a database or a data warehouse. That's something you need to be aware of. In case you don't know what a database or a data warehouse is, think of it like SQL, right? Where we store like a lot of data sets. So we don't primarily store data sets in Power BI. That's not what it is. It's also not an electronic health record, EHR. There's a bunch of EHR that we have out there. So that's not where you store like a lot of sensitive information. That's not what Power BI is not for. It's also not a data entry system. We're not trying to, impute data into Power BI, which sometimes you could use Power BI for these things, but that's not what it's meant for. This is used like using Excel. This is you like, trying to misuse it. So Power BI is also not Excel, but it also works with Excel, right? So it's also not a replacement of data engineering or data science or like other tech stack tools out there. So that's one thing that you need to be aware of. So it's primarily for data visualization. You could do data cleaning with Power BI, but it has its limitation when it comes to data cleaning. You can't necessarily do a lot of like, you can't do regression modeling. You can't do like some more complicated stuff, but you're trying to do some inferential, a little bit of inferential analysis. You're trying to do a little bit of descriptive analysis. Then Power BI is your go-to for it. What are the common misconceptions that people have, especially for beginners? So people have this misconception that, oh, Power BI cleans bad data automatically. So no, you have to still do the process of data cleaning, and that is well, in as much as there's a lot of like AI system out there that can help with some things. There's a thinking process to data analysis. There's a thinking. There's a how. There's a mindset you need to bring to it, and that's what makes us unique. That's what makes us better and not easily replaceable. So you have all of these tools out there to complement you, because basically all of these tools are garbage in, garbage out. You need to be able to understand, like, does this make sense practically? Is this result okay? You also, another misconception people have is that you must know coding to use Power BI. No, Power BI is majorly like point and click. You will probably write some DAX measures, but you don't even have to memorize like those DAX measures. You just have to know how they work. And right now, there's a lot of tools out there that could help you in your DAX query, or as you write your DAX query. And you might not even have to even write any DAX measure if you are working on a simple project in Power BI. So people also assume that dashboard equals insight. No, you need to be able to have your questions first of all, then use your results or use your data to be able to answer that. So there's a thinking to it. Also, one of the misconception is that Power BI does everything. So it's part of a large data ecosystem. So you can't, you have your, if you're working for an organization, the data is probably going to be like in the database. You pull it into Power BI, or you do some transformation with Python or R, all of those. So right. So Power BI is just one of the tools to make our work easier. And where does Power BI fit into healthcare analytics? So like our data source, we have claims, member, provider data. So we have like data from multiple sources. So we can try to merge them in Power BI, or do that before we get into the Power BI. It's also meant for data cleaning and modeling. We could do all of that in Power BI. This also helps us to be able to get metrics, KPIs, trend, and we're getting like the KPI in the context of like data analytics, right? And context of healthcare. This also helps dashboard and reporting, and this outcome helps better decision making, both for either the provider, the healthcare industry, and all that. So in the next video, we're going to be going like more detailed on how do we install Power BI in your device in case you don't have Power BI installed. See you in the next video.